So, uh, folks, thank you all for watching today. I'm really excited. I've got Johanna Yorke on the phone, and she's up in New York, and she's got two restaurants, Otro Cinco and Alto Cinco, and she's been on the podcast. We've talked a few times. A terrific lady. I have a lot of respect for her, and always enjoy speaking with you, Johanna. So thank you for Oh, and we have Lola there, folks. That's Lola, the blue tick coonhound, in the background. So. We're all three here. But Joanna, thank you for taking the time today.
Thanks for asking.
Which location are you at right now?
I'm at my house right now.
You're at your house?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a badass kitchen you got going on there.
I'm on a lake, so sometimes there might be boats going by, but hopefully it will be good for this interview.
That's all right. You could do this from a boat. Do you have a boat?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice. What lake are you on?
It's called Skinny Atlas Lake.
Okay.
It's so it's like right there.
Oh, wow. How long have you been living there?
Just a couple years. It's my boyfriend's place, and we moved out here in the spring and just spent the summer here. So we both have places back in Syracuse, which is about a half hour away. But we stayed all through the summer and probably are just going to stay through the winter too. So we can just drive back and forth to work. It's not far, but it's much quieter. And
yeah.
So our dog Lou can just roam free, and it's good for him too. It's better.
What kind of dog is he?
He's just a rescue too. He's a mix of a lab and maybe part Newfoundland. He's a little bigger, I think, than most people would expect for a lab. So he's got something else in there. And he has a big curly tail. So just a half breed the best way.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I bet he's pretty chill too. I bet he's a good dog.
Yeah.
Okay, so now Syracuse is a half an hour away, which is where you have your places. So give me the lowdown there. First of all, are the students there now?
Yeah, they are. There is a slightly shortened semester, I guess. They're going to break for Thanksgiving, and then that's going to end the semester. So normally they would take a few days, maybe a week for Thanksgiving, and then come back until the mid of December. But I guess the shortened semester goes until I think it's like the 22nd or 21st of November, and then they won't come back again until mid-January. So we're not really sure how that's going to go, what's going to happen business-wise, but we'll figure it out. Yes.
Why is that? Do they think that when people go home, they'll
just to lessen risk, I guess?
Yeah.
Just sort of condense the semester and try to get it over with. I think just the prediction is through the winter months when everyone is more closed in, probably a likelihood of more of the virus being spread. So getting people in and out faster hopefully can mitigate that. I'm not sure. I don't even know what's going to happen with if the numbers go up. I don't know. Maybe they won't come back. There's been some increase lately around here, as in I know many other parts of the country, but we got to where it was less than 1%, and now since school went back in session, it's coming up, a little trickling up.
Okay, so in New York, we hear about New York and you just think of New York City and how bad things were there, or maybe still are, but I mean, it's very different where you are in the state. Are there things that have been imposed statewide that are geared more towards the city that are impacting y'all, or how has that been? I'm real curious about that.
So they went through, as far as the way I understood it was, counties or regions became open gradually as the numbers kept down. So the states started becoming open gradually, right? And Syracuse, I think now I think we can be 75% capacity. That just happened. So we were 50 from the middle of the summer, or maybe towards the end of the summer, there was a 50% occupancy. But I think the stringency that happened in New York City particularly was necessary and helped probably save a lot of people's lives. And that, I think that effect, we're about 4 hours from the city. It just sort of trickles up. Obviously, a lot of the student body is from the city. So people just kind of, it seems like people came back like-minded with the masks. And, you know, I'm not sure the kind of partying and stuff that's going on in the university. I happen to live in the university neighborhood, and saw right in the beginning there were some like lawn party things, just, you know, typical. But now it seems like that's closed up a bit. It is getting a little cooler out too, so maybe that's gonna nip that. But I think everything that was done, you know, personally, I think it was necessary for safety. And a lot of businesses, I think we all suffered in certain ways, but if you have, if that's a known way, you know, with the masks and limiting occupancy, I think it helped a lot.
How are you doing? How have you been holding? I mean, this has been a lot of months of, you know, intense anxiety and concern and fluctuating, changing laws and regulations around what you can do as a restaurant owner. A lot of people have had to close up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So how are you doing, and how are your restaurants doing?
Well, thanks for asking. We're doing pretty good. We're open, you know, both places got open at the end of May, and Alto Cinco, the oldest one, we are not serving people in the restaurant or outside. We're just doing takeout and delivery, and that's been going okay for us. The other location, Otro Cinco, which is downtown, we did do outside table service, and that has been going really well. It's just weather dependent, and we've been lucky to have a great season, so I feel like the weather's been on our side. But I don't know when, probably next week, it'll be time to move the tables inside, and I don't think we're gonna go with serving people in the restaurant for the winter.
Too much risk?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of risk for the servers, because as we know, when people eat, they take their mask off, they start drinking. It's hard to police that and try to be a wait person. So I think we're gonna just take a break, get through the winter, see how the spring looks. Pretty optimistic that if we follow any of the course of the pandemic in 1918, you know, the cycle of it is a year. If we get to the place in the spring and we've all, you know, remained with our health, that's the best thing. You know, the business, I feel like we have enough skill and enough following, thank God, that we can put our business back together and change as this whole thing changes. But we're surviving, and a lot of my employees did not come back to work. Yeah, you hear them?
There's Luke, yeah.
And the ones that did, we're all a pretty solid team. My staff has just been amazing. There's so many adjustments and changes that everyone got really quick and adapted to. And I think people have been doing a really great job. So I'm just thankful for that. I think the most important thing is we're operating, and we're able to employ a small group of people. So it's okay right now, and I feel like we're as safe as we can be.
How many folks you got on your team now?
Well, combined, we have almost 30. But
what would you have had in a normal year right now?
About 110.
Ooh, wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you're at like, gosh, not even 25%. Okay.
Yeah. Big drop in that. We also only are open 5 days a week, which we've never done that before. We were always 7 days. Alto Cinco just last week celebrated 25 years.
Yeah, congrats on that.
Thanks. And it was, you know, it seems it's kind of ironic. It's just like the way we started, a handful of people. We had different hours back then. We were open still every day, but we're open from 11 to 11, and now we're open from 3 to 10. So it's it's a much shorter operation, but I think many restaurant people are experiencing this. It's sort of like a life now. You kind of have, you have some kind of a weekend and everybody gets to rest. The restaurant gets to rest. It gets cleaned properly. Things have just been able to get like cleared out, cleaned out, maintenance things done. Just all the things I guess you can't do easily when it's 7 days, repairs and just so I feel a lot better about that. Um, and I don't know I'm not sure what's next, but we're going. It's still going, so it's okay.
That's a good thing. How do you get through you're so calm about this. Is one of the things I've always loved about you is you just have a really calm presence, and that's so important.
Thanks.
There's a saying, calm is contagious. So maybe it'll rub off on me a little bit. So how do you get through these months? The students go home, they're not going to be back. You're going to close up shop for, you said, till spring.
Mhm.
How does that work as a restaurant financially?
Well, we've been lucky to be on the receiving end of some of the PPP money.
Yeah.
I think there's still a little bit left. So it's pretty much like right on target. It was supposed to last until October because of that extension. So we've made it. So that's great. I think what we're trying to do at both places, also I think a common thing people are doing is just sort of turn your dining room into a makeshift general store, I guess would be what idea is. So we're going to just try to sell some of our essential things and pump up a little bit on the to-go pre-made items for people to just come in and be able to grab stuff. And then also just for neighborhood people to come in and get some essential things, some fresh fruit, bread, baked goods, coffee, see how that goes. We have pretty good wine at both places and some good beer. So we're going to try to push that out too for people. Save people from traveling around a lot.
Yeah.
Kind of come in and do a one-stop shop.
Okay.
See how that goes.
Are you do you communicate with a lot of other restaurant owners either in your area or elsewhere that you know about what they're doing and or where do you, other than the ideas you come up with yourself, are you getting ideas from other folks?
I have a very good friend who owns a restaurant close by. So we chat and kind of stay in touch. We're both doing that similar style of just takeout and doing some essential items. I have another friend who owns a couple places and they're open and serving. Everyone's kind of doing it differently. It's maybe just based on their comfort levels with things and maybe how many of their staff came back. I know some people had a problem where they lost a lot of their staff, and then to try to train people and use the delicate dwindling PPP money was not easy to do that.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're training people, it's like double payroll. So, I think we're all trying to figure it out, and everyone's kind of doing their own thing and what they think is right. So I guess the answer to that is definitely varies.
What about all the staff that are not working for you now that would have been? That's a lot of people. What are they doing?
Yeah, I'm really glad to say that a lot of people, I think, have found more of what they've wanted to do through this time. And I'm sure just, all over the world, even you have extra time on your hands and you start getting creative with plan B and figuring out what you're really good at and what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's been just the most healthy growth for people, just to kind of, I think the thing is with a long-term employment, it can become, it's like anything that you have a relationship, any kind of relationship you have, a friend, a parent, a partner, there's just so much work that goes in through the longevity of that relationship, all the maintenance, all of the understanding, the compromises, dealing it down, right? So it's just like with vendors, you both need each other, and with the employee and the employer, after a while, it becomes this like nobody really knows how to let go, but it
Yeah.
might not be serving one or both for the, I don't know, it might not be really working out anymore, and neither person knows how to let go or get out. And maybe part of the COVID was like a break for everybody to kind of hit the reset, and
Yeah.
for people that were just sort of, kind of on a groundhog day, just go back to work, and not really putting a lot of maybe their own intuitive energy into what do I really want to be doing, And sometimes it's okay to have that release and figure out your thing. And for me and many other businesses to maybe recreate some positions, maybe to figure out there's some positions you don't need, there's some new ones that you do need. There's just a different way of doing business now. I'm sad that I don't get to see some of my long-term employee friends, family, people as much as we used to, but some of us still stay in touch, and I just hear things about so-and-so's doing this, so-and-so's got this going, and I just feel so happy for people like that, because maybe there'll be more success for them in that way.
Yes. It's a really wonderful way to look at it, Johanna. I haven't heard it expressed that way, but that's what sometimes things have to be. Well, what you're referring to is real common when we get stuck in what we're doing, and we may know in the back of our mind, this is what I would rather be doing. And I'll get there one day. And that one day just keeps getting pushed out because
right.
work until something gets forced on you, and then you don't have a choice. So it's a wonderful way to look at it. And I'm glad to hear that a lot of your former staff are doing other things and happy. And then you've got these two businesses that it sounds like you're prepped up and ready to make adjustments and changes and get through until next year. And then let's say, you mentioned the 1918 pandemic and this thing taking a year to get through. And, where do you think, like, let's take next spring or next summer or a year from now. What do you think is going to be changed possibly permanently about the business that you're in of hospitality and packing a place full of people and giving them a warm feeling of being at home and taken care of and served with good food and being around a lot of people in the community and friends and family? Like, how do you think we'll get back to that? Or do you think there's changes within your industry that are probably more permanent?
I thought that before. Maybe this is more permanent around how people will feel to gather again, but I sort of have some optimism that if we can get through to where cases are eventually down to less than 1% and then maybe non-existent, and I don't know if the vaccine is going to happen or not, but if this thing rides out where people can feel safe again about being elbow to elbow, and we can pack the dining rooms and the bar and people can come back together to celebrate, I will be overjoyed, as so many other restaurant owners. But if we have to take some steps back to become just safer as groups of people, maybe gathering in smaller groups and being more distant for a while, then we'll deal with that. Luckily, we have space to do that. It will be, I think, obviously it's going to affect the bottom line where you can't pack a place and turn the tables the way we used to. But because we've been able to shorten down the staff and shorten down the hours, we've gotten really serious about our food cost and are really looking at our numbers every week in a way that maybe we didn't do that as much before. So we're all kind of getting better about being more efficient. So maybe we'll just have to find ways to supplement, through, like I said, maybe trying to sell things more in a retail kind of part of the restaurant to just keep some money coming in. I'm a little bit optimistic about that. It might not work, I don't know. But it's, staffing a place during hours where there's not a lot of people is is very expensive. And now that we're open in these short spurts, you know, we're kind of lucky that we know pretty much every day about how much business we're going to do, and it's staffed accordingly. So it's how it, when I think back to some times where we had a full shift of people and we had these dipping hours of where, you know, like every restaurant, there's just an ebb and flow, but
Yeah.
you're fully, you know, you're fully staffed and you cut people, and just managing that is something we don't, you know, we're not doing that right now. And it seems like it's working. So that full service thing, if it comes back around, like I said, I'll be thrilled. And I think we'll do a little bit better at managing it.
Yeah, and customers will probably be, you know, more aware of. I mean, people are just going to be cleaner. Probably they're going to shake hands less, maybe, and use Purell more or whatever. And y'all will be. I mean, I'm sure restaurants are going to be as clean as anywhere you can possibly go, probably going forward. I think that people are. There's people throughout. I'm convinced, and this might just be confirmation bias. I'm just convinced that people want to be around other people. There's a reason that
Fun.
restaurants or some form of restaurants have been around since we've been around, since commerce has existed, you know, so people want that, and they miss it. The longer this goes, probably the more they'll miss it. And then the more they'll get used to not having it. But I think it's one of those things like where you experience it again, you're like, oh my God, I miss this so much. Thank goodness. So I hope that's the case. I don't know. We'll see.
I do too.
What about, I'm curious about something that I'm starting to see through our customer base. I'm starting to see more owners that are, you know, and we're in an election year, so you know, it's an important time. I'm starting to see more people that are you know, advocating for certain candidates, or they're becoming more political with, or outspoken, I guess, using their platform as a community leader, as somebody that's outspoken about stuff, which has been interesting because that's you know, that can be a double-edged sword as a business owner.
Yeah.
But there's so much going on right now, you know, with, I mean, just so, where do you start? There's so many issues that we're kind of all addressing as a country right now that are sort of top of mind. You know, COVID has become a little political. You have protests in big cities, and there's just a lot going on. How do you feel about all that?
I think it's good that people are starting to be more vocal and share their opinions about things. And even if you know, disagree, I think it's good to take a stance and be involved in what's happening in not only your local economy, but just in being a part of the world. It's important to be conscientious of what you're doing. And as a business owner, I feel like I can see there's just the division that has happened in the past few years. I feel like has been, I mean, it's just very polarizing. So I think when I do find people that we don't share the same opinion on, just try to listen to what they think and try to understand why they feel that way. But try not to just shut that down as, well, you think like this, so you're, you know, it's almost like people seem to just dehumanize other people because you don't agree. And I try to be more like, wow, maybe I can't believe you think that, but why do you feel that way? Or try to listen to understand where these thoughts come from. I mean, I don't think during some of the past elections I've ever, in the restaurant, have ever put signs up, but this year I definitely am. And I'm waiting for them, and I'm pro-Biden. So we've put Black Lives posters up, and I currently have a poster that our governor Cuomo made that tells the sort of the tale of COVID, where it began and where we're at and what they've done to keep the numbers down. It's sort of like a cartoonish version of it, but I hung one in each restaurant. And I feel very proud to be a New Yorker, because I feel like throughout this pandemic, Governor Cuomo was like a godsend of facts and is a sturdy leader with science behind him. So I think it helped us to go from this to this very quickly. And I know other people don't share that view, but that's my belief. So I'm proud to share that that's what I believe in. I'm not asking anyone else to feel that way. And because I own a business, I'm not putting it in I'm not trying to put that in anyone's face. I'm just sharing that that's how I happen to feel.
Well, I love the way you approach it, which is a very diplomatic, matter of fact, not, gosh, there is so much division. And it's funny you say that, because here I am in North Carolina. I got no idea what's going on in New York. If I turn on one channel, I think, God, they really screwed it up. I turn on another, it's been great. So I'd be honest with you, I tuned it out. I actually see this thing?
A flip phone. Awesome.
Couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
Stuff on there, because it's too easy to go on like Twitter, and you're like, ugh. But Twitter is like this thing where I feel like it's not a representation of what's really going on in the world, like in what real people are talking about. Like you and I might have a conversation where we may agree on things and disagree on things, but we're going to respect each other. And I feel like in the social media world, there's just like, it's just a weird place where it seems everybody on both sides is so angry, and I don't feel like most people live that way. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see that in public nearly as much as what you see in the social world. It's weird.
Yeah, and I feel like I stay off of the social media myself, but I felt like during parts of the Black Lives movement, there was a lot of negativity that I felt like it just sort of propagates, and it's like whatever, you can say something one way, it's mistreated and taken in another way, and before you know it, everyone's just left with these really awkward feelings for trying to express that they want some justice. But it's learning the language and changing sometimes how you speak about things to be more, we all have a lot to do, I think, going forward to learn the meaning of certain words, and how when you express yourself, it can be misconstrued. And I think if people say a little bit less and think a little bit more, everything would be a little bit better.
Look, okay. This is one of the big reasons. This is why I wanted to get to this topic. I really think that we need establishments like yours and like so many of these independently owned restaurants around the country, because that's where people come together and have conversations. These things, one of the reasons I did this is I noticed that, like, even my family, it's too easy to, like, if you got an iPhone, you just type out a text, or type out a tweet. It's just and it's all one-sided. Like, the way you would communicate with somebody electronically is very different than if you're looking them in the eye and you're having a real human conversation. Whether it's in person or even like we're doing right now, it's very different. And so what people know now is Will is silly, flip phone. I can't communicate. Like, if you're going to send me a text, it's going to be a one-word response, because I have to literally go C B, so it's going to be this one-word response. If you want to have a conversation with me, let's have the conversation, right? I mean, like, that's where stuff really happens. People can hide behind these things, and also things can get misinterpreted. I noticed that like, I would send a text to maybe my daughter, and it would, or my wife, it would come across in a way that was totally not the way I meant it, but the way they would read it would be very different. And then we had, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not how I meant that. Like, let's talk. And then you talk and you're like, oh, I get it. I see why you thought that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's why I'm advocating for get rid of here's a technology company, but I'm saying get rid of the screens, get rid of them like as much as possible. We need more of this, more human interaction. Anyway, sorry.
I agree completely. And I think it's a good point about how restaurants has from the beginning of time, a gathering place for people to express their views and try to connect, or sometimes you just got to spout off about something way you feel. And through that, you get to, hopefully you learn some things too.
Yeah.
It should be an exchange.
It should be an exchange, and there's no right and wrong necessarily. There's people that view the world differently, and that's okay. We have to respect each other, and you know, that's what matters. But there's not as much of that now. People really respecting other views. I have a big issue with that, so I don't know. There's a documentary I'm going to watch. Have you heard of this thing called The Social Dilemma?
Yeah, actually, I watched some of it on Sunday, and I don't think it's anything surprising given what we've just talked about.
Yeah.
But it goes deep, and it is a wild bummer to see how something that started with the best of intentions for engaging people in society and helping to build human connection went into such a platform to sort of sell things and become almost like a channel for advertising and becoming a business that wasn't what it started to be. So good luck with that. You should watch it with your kids.
Well, I'm going to. So I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I have a 13-year-old son, and I have an 11-year-old son. And, you know, the 16 and 13-year-old have phones, and they have some social media tools, and we have some very clear rules around that stuff, and we know what they're on, and you know, but still, it's the bigger thing is I believe, and I'm curious to see if this is what happens or what they talk about in here is just these things they become so addictive. Like that was my challenge. It's like I'm looking at it constantly, and I was like, I know my own limitations. Like that thing is just pinging me constantly, and I'm looking at it, and it becomes an extension of you, which is weird to me, and I don't like it. But anyway, but you know, this is part of why it's been real interesting through this to see. I mean, we've had places that have started using Schedulefly that never needed it because they had, like, let's say a set schedule, right? Very consistent. Same guy and gal work same shifts, you know, whatever. And they would just put it on Excel or whatever, minimal changes, that kind of thing. And now they're just dealing with like, so-and-so showed up, took the temperature, has a fever, got to go home, got to find somebody. Or so-and-so called in, you know, they were exposed to somebody, got a quarantine. So they're dealing with this changing schedule. So we, all of us, we're thankful that we can help in situations like that. And we're thankful that we help the customers that we do. But we've really been careful to limit, as you've probably seen, we don't keep adding stuff all the time because, you know, a lot of technology companies, they keep adding because they want you to be engaged on their platform more and more and more and more. And that's what that's all about. Then they can advertise, whatever it is. Like, I'd rather people, or we would rather people just be able to go in, do what they need, and have it be there. It's almost like, you know, like a tool that you can grab and use when you need it, and you put it away and you keep doing what you're doing. Not something that's all of a sudden like, I got it with me everywhere I go because everything I do is based on this. No. That's not, I think that's healthy.
That's a good point. It's there when you need it, and it makes other things so much easier, but you don't need to carry it around. I mean, your platform has helped us so much in the past years. It's just been great. It just makes so many things so much easier.
I'm glad to hear that. I appreciate it. All of us do. We thank you for that. That's all we want, is to make things a little easier, because then y'all can focus on doing what you do really well, which is providing great hospitality, engaging with people. You know, like the idea is not to keep people sitting in an office or on a screen all the time having to deal with stuff. It's like just, you know, free you all up to do what you do really well. And that's going to keep changing. It's, you know, I mean, like you said, you're having to get more involved with your costs now and understanding that. And so you keep tweaking and getting better. But at the end of the day, what you do well, what your team does well, what our customers do well, that we're so proud to serve y'all, and this is specifically independent restaurants, is you're members of your community. You care about your community. You love your community. You love what you do. You love inviting people into. It's like your second home, and you want it to be their second home. And there's nothing better than that. Like we've always needed that. We'll always need that. And we're so thankful for that. And I think that people are more aware of that now than they've ever been, meaning the consumer, the customer. Things have gone so well for so long that people may not have paid as much attention to who they patronize. But now I think they think, okay, gosh, I keep hearing independent restaurants and small local businesses are really struggling. What can we do to help them? How do we, you know, is it buy gift cards? Is it give big tips to servers? Is it just get more takeout or whatever it is? I think people are more aware of that now. And I think on the tail end of this, that's going to benefit you and your peers a lot. Because I think that's one thing that people will take away from this that probably won't change, is that they really are more aware of who they do business with.
Yeah, I agree. I think since the beginning of the COVID, people were so gracious, just coming by and buying the gift cards, or just saying like, we'll keep coming back. And it makes such a difference. As you see some of the people still, the regulars, they still come, they just get their food in bag. We'll get back to the, you know, maybe not get back. I feel like there is no going back, but we'll get to a place again where we can serve the people in the style that I think or maybe even better. But I miss a lot of the people, as I'm sure
everybody does.
Restaurant feels like
the hard part of this. They miss y'all. You said that you watched, I'm just curious about this, but I mean to ask you, you watched the Zoom that we did with Dave Quarry and enjoyed that. Well, Dave's a great guy. I have so much respect for him. I've known him a long time. I'm just curious, as a restaurant owner and somebody that's been in the business for a while, like he has, what did you get out of that? Or is it just a lot of stuff where you were nodding along saying, yeah. Same.
Yep. It was so much of that. Seems like he has a really big operation, though. He has so many different concept restaurants, right?
He's got like 15 locations across like 5 or 6 concepts. Yeah,
that's wild. But I think so many points that he touched on, I guess it's just like a little bit of a warming kind of connection to realize like these perceptions, things that have been occurring in the past few months are similar with other people. It might sound really just so basic, but like Dave said, I think towards the end, you know, everything is just noticing, like everything is cleaner, even like the alleyway outside, like there's so much less of everything. And I think sometimes being the head of, you know, an operation, just on the daily, like before you even get into your office or get your coat off, you've already passed into seeing so many things that you have to respond to because, you know, they're not quite right. It's like you walk in, there could be like a plant you see needs water. The music might be just not what is right. And you might notice something from the doorway that's, you know, a little bit needs a little fixing, or your eye will go to some things that need to be cleaned. There's like a box on the floor. Someone's not wearing a hat. You know, by the time you get to where you're going, you're just like, wait, which one of these things do I hit first? And then I think kind of throughout this changing pandemic quarantine thing, there's just so much less to respond to that you kind of just get like a little breather. And for me, I gotta be honest with you, it's like, it's not like there's a bunch of money coming through the door. You know, we went from like this to this. We're like this right now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not going to be like this anytime soon, but I hope it doesn't go like this. But just even operating like this, it's just so much like, it's just so much less consuming of your energy. And it's okay, I think, to just, for a lot of people, just to take a break for a minute. You know,
Yeah.
1 year of life is just like a blip. You know, I think I've been lucky to be open 25 years, right? If I have 1 or 2 bummer years, you know, it's not going to, hopefully, it's not going to end it, you know?
It's a good perspective. I think a lot of people have had time to think about that, and it's been a healthy thing in a lot of ways. You and your peers that run restaurants, independent restaurants, man, it is like, I mean, in all the years of doing this, I've always just been amazed at your ability to just spin like 50 plates, you know, with 2 hands at one time, all the time, 24/7, 365, a lot of times. Little time off, even on vacation, you still got to know what's going on. It's impressive. I've always felt like there's no way I could do it. I don't have the capacity to, you know, whatever it is that, I think I'd break, honestly. So, but you know, it's good that y'all have had this chance, because you're probably, when you're on this trajectory and you keep growing, you know, there's just like big fear almost, like if we don't just keep this up, that, you know, if we start going like this, it's going to be really bad. And it's almost, in a weird way, maybe it's comforting. And I guess you were touching on this a little bit, that because everybody had to hit reset and everybody went like this, it's like if your business alone went like this while everybody else was going like that, you probably just, it wreck you.
Yeah.
But since everybody, you're like, okay, it's not my fault, it's out of our control. But now you value things that you can't necessarily measure. Like you can measure growth, profitability, all that kind of stuff, but you can't measure downtime, better sleep, better taking care of yourself, more exercise, more time to just think, you know, less stress. Like those things are immeasurable, but they're so valuable. And maybe it's a good time that people will find that while they're not going to go like this, and you know, they may be here now, but maybe like here is okay if you get some balance, versus always like this with no balance at all, which is kind of what most restaurant people have been on for a long time.
Right. And I think another important part of that is, you know, if you're like this and you get to this place where you're like the best, then there's only one way to go.
Yeah.
So if we all kind of went like this a little bit, but we can get back up again, it's more of a challenge. And I think it's maybe what a lot of businesses and just people in general needed to kind of bring out why we are in this business again. You know, maybe you get back to like really the basics, looking at your food and the people making your food and what your relationship is to the restaurant in a more direct way. I've enjoyed that. We've started doing staff meals again, and it's kind of, it's just invigorating. And sometimes when you have a really large staff, or at least I wasn't able to find a way to do it, when you have like 4 shifts in the day being open until 2 a.m., you just lose a connection. You see people, you don't really know them. And it's all necessary when you have, you know, big operations, but that is somewhat, I didn't find that satisfying. And having back a small staff and a lesser operation is just so much more satisfying. So, you know, this is a weird thing. It might sound crazy, but when I think sometimes about if someone asked me to, like, what is it like, you know, having a restaurant? I think one of the feelings is like, you know, having a really great dinner party every night. It's kind of how it starts out. And then you can get to a point where it's like, how do I clean this all up again and start all over again with like, all the attention to the important things. And then you go through all these years, right, of doing it. And I think there's this backdrop of a feeling that I would describe like having like groceries in your car with like ice cream that you got to get home. So you're like, you got a couple stops on the way, but in the back of your mind, you're always like, I gotta get that ice cream in the freezer. It's gonna thaw. I gotta get that ice cream in the freezer. And through time, it's like you just have more bags of stuff that you're like, I gotta get this. I gotta get this like situated, but I still gotta drive and look out and be careful. But you always have this feeling. It's probably like, having your kids. It's like there's just always this thing in the back of your mind, right? That's like, wait, where are they? Are you sure she's there? What? She said this. Wait, what? And then but you got to keep driving. And you got to stay, safe and smart. And you got to get to certain places at certain times every day.
Yep.
And then through this whole, crazy quarantine and pandemic, it's like I dropped some of those bags off.
That's good. I hope you pick them up again. Hope you don't have to pick them up again. I hope I really hope a lot of this is lasting and people don't let that stuff creep back, because it can creep back. It can over time. Like, oh, well, yeah, now I got to do this again, but that's okay. It's just that. And then, next thing you know, so it's going to be interesting to see. Like one of the things I've really enjoyed very much is having continuing conversations with folks like you prior to this, during this, post this, because it's really, I'm very curious how this changes things. And so having these consistent conversations, meaning with you, Dave, like there's a number of customers that we've gotten to know really well over the years. And, we have 7,000. I can't know them all. Unfortunately, I wish I could, because I love everyone that we serve. But I love having this. I've really learned the value of having these consistent conversations with like a group of a few dozen of you or whatever it is, to see how things change. And you and I will have this conversation in 6 months and then again in a year or whatever. And then it'd be interesting to look back and go, remember when we were talking about,
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. But
diary.
That's right. That's exactly right. I really like the Zoom thing because I love being able to see y'all. I've always enjoyed the podcast, but this is really cool. I want to ask you one more thing, and I want to respect your time and let you go. But I am curious what you've been doing with some extra time. Like I know one time I think I texted you and you were just getting back from a run and you were going on a run. So I know you're into some running. But what else do you do to like keep your head on straight and stay happy and healthy?
Two things. Yoga. I got really into yoga, and that became a daily thing now, and sometimes even twice a day. So that's been great. That has been a life-changing thing. So
is that you got into it during the last few months?
Yeah, but like regular. So that's been a great part of my day, and I don't miss it. Like I never miss a day. So I'm really got to do this, And the other thing is, got into something I wanted to do for a long time, but just never really did, is bake bread. And I was a baker. I started in the restaurant world as a baker, but never bread. So over the quarantine, I started experimenting, and I've been really enjoying it. My boyfriend eats bread every day.
Lucky guy.
So it's good. It's fun. I like doing that. So I found some things to do that are really rewarding, and it's given me just a lot of satisfaction, I guess, to pay attention to some other things like that.
What's your favorite kind of bread that you've been making?
Just regular baguettes. I'm
just
trying to improve on that.
Man.
So it's fun.
Okay. You know what? There's a baker. We're down here. We're in Waxhaw, North Carolina, and there's this tiny little place I found. And this lady's she's a, what's that culinary school over in France?
The Cordon Bleu?
Yeah. she like went there and, but she's got this little, I mean, it's tiny. This little, it was like I don't know if it was a house at one point or whatever, but it's really small. But she bakes these breads and bagels and I'm going there. I mean, I just like, that got my mouth watering. She makes some really good stuff. So since I can't have yours, I'm going to go there and get some when we get done with this. Have a baguette for lunch.
Good.
Well, I really enjoyed catching up with you, and I appreciate
Thank you.
time. And oh, let me ask you this: can I trade you if I send you some more hats? We're out of socks, by the way. I know you like those socks. We ran out. I'm trying to get some more. But can I get an Otro Cinco shirt or an Alto Cinco shirt?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I send it. Are you emailing me?
Yeah, I'll send you my address.
Cool.
In fact, I have a Foo Fighters shirt on today. Normally I have a customer T-shirt on like every single day, and I grabbed this one. This one was still dark, and I didn't see what I was grabbing. But I love wearing customer T-shirts every day. I've got a bunch of them, and it's like I feel so proud wearing a lot of them. So we've got some hats coming in. Oh, you know what we have coming in too? I'll send you these. Is the they're called, I mean, I guess we call them buffs, but it's like what fly fishermen wear them, and like they come around your face and they go up over your head. But they're really cool. Wes, he's the guy who started Schedulefly, and one of my partners here, he does a lot of fly fishing. And, like a lot, and he's like an expert fly fisherman, and they wear these things, and he's got this really cool design that we're going to put on these things, and I'll send you some. People can wear them at work or whatever, and
yeah,
we're going to get some of those too. I'll send you a box of these.
That'll be great for the winter up here too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, Lola's found something she's getting ready to start howling at, so we'll wrap this up. But thank you very much. I enjoyed it a lot. I appreciate it, and we'll catch up again soon.
Okay, thank you. Be
See you.
well.
Bye.
Bye.